with the NFL draft, the only other thing we have to talk about for the most part is a lot of these new teams unveiling their new uniforms. And Nike was the one who took over the uniform process a few years ago, changed a few uniforms, and now at least a lot of teams are starting to change them again. Most of it, to be honest, is a money grab. Most of it is necessary, I think, for the Buccaneers. They definitely needed some new uniforms. The Browns needed some new uniforms. So, again, a total of 7 teams will have new uniforms in some variation, whether it's a new logo, new color scheme, new helmet, or, and again, in the case of the Browns and the Buccaneers and the Falcons, totally redone new uniforms. And for the most part, I feel like a lot of these uniforms have swung and missed. And Nike, they do a lot of great uniform designs. They do just a lot of great designs in general, right? All their apparel, I think it's pretty stylish. It works for the most part, but it's weird once they get to NFL uniforms. A lot of them they either get too cute, they look weird, they swing and miss a lot, and sometimes they overcomplicate. When the classic look is the best, when sometimes it's an oldie but a goodie. And at least with the Browns, this is, I think, the one uniform so far that actually hit the nail on the head, actually crushed it. And that's more important, as they got back to their roots. They went with the classic look. Yesterday, they revealed the uniforms. So that is the brown jersey, white pants, all white on the road, some great socks. They went back to a classic look that looked good, that fans liked, that, and coaches, that fans, national media, national fans liked. If you're just a NFL fan, those uniforms in the old days and the retro days of the Browns were a good look. Why they changed it to go with the Cleveland across the chest and kind of look, not great uniforms when they went with Nike. They finally went back, did the right thing, went back to their roots. And while I was hoping they went a totally classic with the white face mask, they kept their helmets the same with the black face mask. They went white. We went totally retro. I think it would have absolutely by far killed it. But without that, they still went classic. They still went back to their old look of the 70s, the 80s. The Browns, how we know them and how they see them back in the day, is how they went. So they are, to me, the only ones that actually did it right. And I feel like, too, when you look back, a lot of these teams, or like when there's a uniform, I should say, change, hinted at, all right, a lot of these things are hyped up and you have a release date for the release date. The Browns a few weeks ago put out a release date. All right, we're going to have a hype video for us releasing these uniforms on April 15th. So it is, fans do get into it. I get into it. I'm a uniform guy. That's why I like college football so much. I love the uniform variation. I love the alternate jerseys. I'm a big, big alternate jersey fan. I think, especially when you go back to the classics, they are great. NBA's done a good job of that. You have the Grizzlies going back to their Vancouver days. I think it's great when teams go back and either make it their alternate or wear it often, retro throwback jerseys, because those are honestly some of the best looks and where the best creativity came from. Now teams get too cute, or you have these designers get too cute. But again, Browns went back to their classics, went back to their retro look. To me, those are the ones who crushed it that I like so far. The Colts are one of those teams that made minor tweaks, and they tried to also go back to their roots of the Baltimore Colts of the 1950s, the 1960s. And basically all they did was they changed the number outline, so it looks a little bit different. They had these, now if you're uniform junkie or you watch a lot of the Colts games, when they do their color rush jerseys, they kind of have these bubbly numbers, I guess you can call it. I don't really know how to describe what the number looks like, but they went back to those full time, which was what the Baltimore Colts wore in the 50s and 60s. I'm not the biggest fan. I don't really like the way the bubble looks. The numbers are almost too big, to be honest. I know Oregon caught a lot of flack this past year because their new uniform design involved numbers that basically took up the entire jersey that you can see from space. If you were watching down, you look, there's Oregon. You can't miss those numbers because they're so big. Kind of what the Colts look like. I'm not the biggest fan of it. They did also reveal a secondary logo, which is a C, but within the C, it's cut out in the shape of Indiana, which I think actually looks pretty cool. And the only other thing essentially was they added black as a tertiary color. And with that, all they did was change the Nike swoosh color on their away jerseys from from blue to black, which this is my one gripe with all sports. I see it as a Mets fan as well. A lot of fans are clamoring for them to go back to the black alternate jerseys that they had in the 2000s. I don't understand why so many teams and so many fans want to add black as a color when it doesn't go with the color scheme and it's not a primary color for that team. For example, the Steelers, black and yellow. Black is an integral part. It is very important, and that is a good look for them. For the Colts, blue and white is their colors. They don't need a third color. Not to mention, black doesn't go with blue or white. It doesn't. It just looks weird when you have a blue and white jersey and you have some black outlining or a black swoosh Nike color on it. I don't understand why people just assume black goes with everything. That's not the case. Whether it's getting dressed up, you put on black shoes with a blue suit, or if you're in the case of sports teams where you put black in, you put black trim on uniforms, it doesn't go. So it drives you crazy when teams try to incorporate the color black in a color scheme that doesn't fit with them. Red and black with the Falcons, we'll get to them in a second, looks good. Black and yellow with the Steelers looks good. The Colts don't need to put black on any part of their uniform because it doesn't go. It looks weird. It looks out of place. I don't get the need. And the Colts aren't the only ones. Again, there are plenty of teams, and you have Mets fans, again, wanting badly for the black alternates to come back. The Mets colors are blue and orange. Black doesn't go with blue or orange, especially that combo. Stop. Please, I beg sports teams and everyone alike, stop putting black in as a secondary or third color, then it doesn't go. Speaking of black, we'll get to the Falcons here. To me, I thought they, maybe had the biggest swing and miss of all these new uniform reveals. They, outside of a classic retro throwback, shocker. They went with some different uniforms, so they went with all black. They have a gradient where the red is on top and it fades into black pants, which, I'll be honest, it looked very XFL-ish. I saw those uniforms. They did not blow me away. They tried to get too cute, I think. And again, when you have a gradient uniform, you have ATL and pretty block lettering on top of the jersey, similar to what the Browns had with Cleveland on top. Normally, I do like when teams have names on the cross of the jerseys. Like, to me, Texas, that is iconic, and part of the reason why the Texas uniform is so great is because they have the word Texas across their chest. I'm just a sucker for when teams put their names or cities across their chest in football. For whatever reason, I just think for the most part, it's a good look. Atlanta, and especially ATL, to me is not a good look. It is not the case where putting your city initials or your city name or your team name across your chest, it's not a good look. Again, it looked very XFL-ish. At least the helmets, they kind of look cool. They had like a matte black silver face mask finish, so that was nice. But again, the only one that stuck was their alternate throwback retros jerseys from really the 90s and the Michael Vick days. You had a jet black jersey, white pants, some nice socks. That is a classic good look. If they went to that full time, I think fans would have been overjoyed. Instead, now it's like the fourth alternate because they have an all red gradient combo, they have an all black, they have an all white, they have like 4 different uniform combinations, which that the only one that actually looks good is probably going to be the one that is worn the least amount of times. Speaking of just terrible, terrible alternate jerseys, the Buccaneers are a weird case because in a way they went back to their roots and they did going back to and kind of mirroring their uniforms after their early 2000s look when they actually won their Super Bowl. So, you had the red jersey, you had the pewter pants, you had the pewter helmet. It looked good. It was a classic look. And they went back to that. But I'll be honest, the reason why I'm disappointed in the Buccaneers is twofold. One, they were hyping these jerseys up, which, again, I understand. You got to create a buzz. You got to create hype. So you're going to always make it seem like these are the best things ever created because you want fans hype. You want fans into it. It's a way to sell merchandise, a way to sell jerseys. That's all this is. It's a money grab. That's why these teams change uniforms so often. It's not to look good on the field. It's not to please the fans. It's every few years you could sell jerseys, extra jerseys, right? Fans always want the newest and latest uniforms. It's why you can do it. So that's why Nike now is pushing a lot of these teams to even make subtle changes just so that fans are clamored to buy the newest and the latest gear that's out there. So with this, and the Buccaneers were really the first one that released their uniforms and hyped them up greatly. I was disappointed because I thought they were going to be something new. Their uniforms they just had with the digital clock numbers and the massive logo on their helmet, it was all a big swing and a miss. Their classics were fine. There was no need to change them. But they never indicated, at least to the Browns, they indicated we're going back to our roots. They didn't make that a secret. They told you flat out, one way or another, we are going back to our roots and going to make this happen. And instead, the Buccaneers hyped up, but this is going to be the greatest thing ever. They're new and improved. We're going to make sure that these aren't disappointed or aren't disappointing. And instead, they go back to their roots, which, again, I think it's a good look, especially all white, very clean. But I was disappointed personally because I feel like I was led to believe that something was coming up or something that was going to be new when it really wasn't. And not to mention, speaking of alternate jerseys, the Buccaneers you haven't seen have a pewter alternate jersey, which is basically like a gray. And it's just an awful look. And now maybe this is also part of me being disappointed again because I was hoping for a creamsicle look. And if you're unfamiliar with that, there was their look in I believe the 60s and the 70s and the 80s where it's, burnt orange and white. And it looked like a creamsicle if you know the ice cream. And it looked good. Now, maybe I think part of the reason why they weren't able to put that throwback in this year because the NFL still has a one helmet rule, so you can only wear one helmet. And you're not going to wear the old, or their current helmet that is pewter and gray with an orange and white uniform, top and bottom. So I guess maybe, hopefully 2021, if and really when the NFL lifts their one helmet rule, you can have alternate helmets. I think a lot of these teams will bring back some alternate jerseys, and that will really, really let the creative juices going back to the retro look. But I was disappointed at least, and somehow, some way, I think the worst helmet on the NFL, the Buccaneers helmet, have this massive, massive logo on it that is, again, you could see, the Colts numbers from space. You could see this helmet from space. The logo is massive. It's huge. It's hideous. And somehow in this new reveal, when the Buccaneers, again, going back to their 2000s roots, that helmet still somehow survived. I don't know how. And again, some of these people that are put in charge of making these uniforms have really swung and missed big time. So two more teams that one hasn't released anything yet. That's the Patriots. They say minor changes are coming. Maybe their color rush, which is all navy, is their full-time home jersey. I like that look. I think it's a good look. I love. And again, maybe this is, again, another 2021 hope when the NFL changes their helmet rule that they go back to their Pat Patriot, which is, the red, white, and blue. You have the Minuteman on the helmet. It's a great, classic, all-time look for the Patriots. So maybe that could come back into the fold. Or even, going back to the retro and old school look, they're in late 90s jerseys with the big Patriot logo on the shoulder pads, the lighter blue jerseys. It's a good look. I think it's a great look. I hope it comes back in one way or another. We'll see. But I think that would definitely be in the Patriots' best interest. And the Rams only released logos, which to not get the best of reception, let's just say, especially on social media a few weeks ago, some of the logos, like, they had a ram horn or a ram head. I thought was a pretty cool look. But their logo with LA and coming out of the A is like a ram horn. Their biggest issue, it looks too similar to a Charger bolt, which now, especially with them being in the same city, in the same stadium, the last thing you want to do is have fans confused for what team is actually playing. Is it the Rams or the Chargers? And that's the biggest thing with the Rams. Their uniform, or I should say their logo, looked way, way, way too similar to their tenants in their new stadium with the Chargers. So let's get your thoughts. Like, does anyone care about uniforms? Or maybe I'm just a sucker. I love NFL or just general NFL sports uniforms in general. So maybe I'm more interested in this than you are. I hope I didn't bore you the last 10 minutes. But is there any uniforms that stood out to you that you liked? Any uniforms that you thought just completely swung and missed? For me, that's the Falcons big time. I thought they really had a chance again to go more retro, go more of that late 90s, early 2000s look, or even maybe throw it back even further. They had red helmets, which I thought were a great look, but instead, again, they go for something new, sexy, and I just thought it was a complete swing and miss